Okay, you all just saw that I don't have my mask on, so I'm sorry. Welcome back. We're here for the second installment of 2020 Senior Project Presentations, Quarantine Edition. And the last one was awesome. And so how exciting for me and to introduce a really dear person, Mahala Dunn. So put your hands together.
Hello. All right. So let's start from the beginning. I come from a very long line of seamstresses and craftswomen. My grandmother sewed my mother's clothes, and her mother did the same for her. It's actually a little ridiculous. If I'm honest, it's a lot to live up to. But nonetheless, we must try and try again. My mom was always sewing, if not knitting, or weaving some kind of giant dream catcher to hang in the living room. My interest in sewing could have been from my exposure at a young age, or it was written in the stars as my destiny. I started sewing maybe around 8 or 9 years old, following my mother's passion for crafting. Eventually, I took a class at our local sewing shop. Soon after this, I was set to create my own pieces. My grandmother has a pretty fabulous sewing room in her home, and when I was little, it was a little bit of heaven. Later, I went through a phase of cutting up and changing my clothes. After earning my fair share of nice clothing, I wanted to be able to actually make something out of my destroyed items. This led to my 8th grade project, which was learning how to use patterns and create 2 dresses. I had my grandmother's help in achieving this goal, but after looking back, I knew I could create more and challenge myself in new ways. This is what eventually led to my senior project. I wanted this project to reflect the way I have matured in my skills since my 8th grade year. This meant that I needed to do things on a larger scale, so I decided that I wanted to make 20 to 25 pieces and have a fashion show to present my work. I'm going to take a few steps back and talk about fashion. Again, this was definitely something I got from watching my mother. Her love for clothes and style has always been present in my childhood. Not only clothes and fashion, but also the value of getting quality pieces. I remember going to Savers and Goodwill and searching through the racks and racks of clothing, looking for hidden gems through the heaps of polyester and other synthetic materials. On average, an American throws away 81 pounds of clothing every year. So let's talk about this because it's a bigger problem than we think. In the US alone, we send about 21 billion pounds of textile waste into our landfills per year. This is in part because of fast fashion. What is fast fashion? Fast fashion is an inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass-marketed retailers in response to the latest trend. For example, Forever 21, H&M, Urban Outfitters, and Zara are just a few brands that are considered fast fashion. Forever 21 stocks their stores every day with new styles of cheap and on-trend items. But as of this year, Forever 21 has filed for bankruptcy and is closing about half of their stores across the US. Apparently, Forever 21 isn't responding fast enough to the consumer style needs. There are about 800 giant stores that are just wasting the company's money. The location of the stores, along with paying employees and other financial needs to keep the store up and running, isn't just too much. The stores also can't swap out all the new styles coming in every day. Now, with our lives turning more technologically dependent, people don't want to spend time shopping around in stores anymore. So everyone is ordering online. Competitors are making it much easier to purchase items with fast shipping and easy returns. Now we must ask, is it a bad thing that Forever 21 and other stores are struggling? I know, if you know, the working condition that people are working in to make fast fashion clothing is awful. The environment that men, women, and children in places like China or Bangladesh are working is unsafe and unfair. They are working very long days for very little pay. Fast fashion is a truly horrible thing, not only for the environment, but also for the people making the clothes. I would do yourself a favor and do some more research about fast fashion, getting to know what is actually going on behind the scenes of some of the brands you wear. We all have been a part of buying fast fashion. I'm not a fashion saint either. I love H&M and wanting some new clothes and not wanting to pay a lot for them, which isn't the best way to go about shopping for clothes. If you're going to spend money on clothes, then spend money on companies that support their workers and respect them. Make their clothes with quality material and care. Fast fashion is hurting individual people, it's hurting families, and it's hurting our environment. Now you may be wondering, how can you help the environment by what you wear? One way is to buy natural clothing. Buy natural clothing that is 100% cotton or other natural materials. Stay away from polyblends. Fun fact, polyester is just woven plastic. And I had no idea. This may be upsetting, I understand, but you can help. Upcycling clothing is another solution, which is why a lot of my project is focused on this. We must revamp the rejected. Upcycling is taking an already made item and transforming it into a new and fabulous piece for your collection. I really love upcycling. Since we have billions of tons of clothes, I thought it would be better to create new styles from already made, slightly more drab pieces. I focused on upcycling along with creating handmade quality clothes. I started by finding a mentor. Well, it wasn't really finding a mentor because I knew who I wanted and it was more a matter of asking. So I asked and she said yes, making Erica Broser set to be my mentor. A sewing space was needed for this project. My home is really being used to its full potential, so that wasn't an option. The school was talked about, but I wasn't fully comfortable having my whole project based there. So I was at a standstill of a place to work. Then, like a shining light, Karina Bergen offered her crafting space in her home for me to work. I was very grateful, and now I had a space, and it was time to start. My process. I wanted to make a range of clothes from different ages, genders, and sizes. I would start with an idea that I came up with in my head or saw out in the world. I would try to find pictures of what I was imagining, which sometimes would be a dead end. I am not big on patterns, but I did use a few. So a lot of what I did was based on trial and error or pictures I went off of. Let me tell you, I love Pinterest. If you have never used Pinterest, I strongly suggest it for any inspiration needed on a project. I have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to this project. Either I would get an idea from something I saw, or I would be at a thrift store and see a pile of doilies and a spark would flash in my mind. I get inspiration and motivation in waves. This isn't the best when you are somewhat in a time crunch, but you work with what you've got. I would have periods of times where I would work for 7 hours straight, and sometimes I would wait 4 days to finish a piece. There were many ups and downs. I had a serger, which is a type of sewing machine that trims the seam and overlooks the seam together while sewing. But neither Erica or myself could figure out what was wrong with it, so that was given up on. The only thing left to do was start. So I began slowly but surely, and I made a few scrap items to get the feel of what I was doing. Once I felt comfortable about those, the real sewing began. Many pokes and stabs later, I had my first piece. I had the idea after seeing a trend in stores. They had cut 2 shirts right down the middle and sewed them together. I thought this was a little odd, but I liked the concept. So I took it and I put my own spin on the idea. My idea was to cut 2 different shirts along the side seams, sewing the front and the back together, making one interesting shirt. I was pretty happy with it and I soldiered on. I made 27 pieces overall. There was a good assortment of children's and adult clothes as well as different sizes. That was a big part of the project overall, and I am proud of myself for sticking to that goal. Dresses, shockingly, are my least favorite to make. I don't know what it is about them, but I always end up cutting them in half. One evening, I saw a YouTube video and the girl was making this stunning dress. I was determined to try it for myself. I was in Minneapolis and at a thrift store, and I found the prettiest bed sheets for only $2.99. It was perfect for the dress, and I was ready to start. I followed the video instructions, and the dress has a drop back, which means a lot of cinching and pulling of threads, but it wasn't as difficult as I thought. But then when it came to add the bottom ruffles, I cut too high. Oh my goodness, I was so upset. I just sat down and cried, but deep breaths, right? So after that defeat, I continued. I trimmed and I measured and tried my hardest to salvage the dress. I ended up cutting the dress even shorter and adding a pink trim at the hemline to add a little something. Though it wasn't what I originally planned, I still liked how it turned out, and I'm very proud of the drop back. Overall, I spent around 60 to 70 hours on this project. I'm not fully sure the amount of money that I spent on this project, but between the thrift store stops and the Walmart runs, I would estimate around $350 to $400 on this whole project. So, a little about my fashion show. My fashion show was scheduled to happen March 23rd, but due to the COVID-19 outbreak, it was canceled. This was definitely very frustrating, and there were many tears shed, but there wasn't anything I or anyone could do about it. So during this time of unknown, I'm not sure what the future will bring, but I can only hope for the best. My goal with this fashion show was to present my work to the community and raise money for Pads for Girls Foundation. Pads for Girls is a foundation. They have been supporting reproductive and menstrual health along with access to education in the global south, providing reusable products that are environmentally friendly and also cut the cost of menstrual products completely. So with this, I still wanted the community to be able to see my work. So I created an Instagram account for this to present my project on a virtual platform. With the help from Elliot, I got some pictures taken and I posted them to the Instagram page. Instantly, with help from my friends, people began to see the new account and I was enjoying everyone's comments. Overall, this project has been challenging and exciting, and I'm happy with the clothes I have created and the new skills I have learned. So I have a lot of things to share. Sorry. First, I would like to thank Erica for taking the time out of her busy life to be my mentor and guiding me through this project. I am so grateful for her presence in my life, and I love her so very much. Okay. I would like to thank the Bergens for their generosity and opening up their home to me and giving me a space to work. I would like to thank Karina for the beautiful mannequin she got me for Christmas, her warmth and support. I'd like to thank Lars for his enthusiastic support and being a wonderful model. I would also like to thank Elliot for his constant love, support, and check-ins, as well as being my driver for most fabric runs. He also was a big help with the Instagram page. Thank you to all of my lovely friends for their suggestions and inspiration. My sisters Iris and Aveline, they were great models for me, and I appreciate their help very much. And lastly, I would like to thank my parents for their love of fashion and style and their love and support for me. I'm so grateful and lucky to have two such amazing people guiding me through life. Thank you. I said I wasn't going to cry.
I know. It looks like a lot of people love you on the chat. Okay? Good. So let's get the questions rolling. You just write in the chat function and make sure you include it to everyone, and I will read them out. Uh-oh. What happened? Did it go away? Uh-oh. I don't know. It just like turned off.
What do you mean oh.
Meeting turned off.
Did you lose the Wi-Fi?
Uh-oh.
Well, that's not great.
Not great. Does anyone in the audience have a question while the internet reboots?
Go out, but the question goes away. The chat goes away.
No, if you save it, you can save it.
Well.
All right. Sorry, I went away for a while. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So people can add things to the chat. Questions? Okay, great job, Mahala. We love you. Could you? Vicky asked if you could talk a little bit about your process of one of the specific pieces.
Yeah. So let's see. We can find a picture here. Well, I briefly mentioned about this dress, but I can talk a little bit more in depth about it. So basically, the idea came from, like I said, a YouTube video there's a, her name is Wendy, but I can't remember what the channel is called, but she has a really cool YouTube channel, and I watch it. She just like makes a bunch of crazy clothes from the runway and from like red carpet events that she sees, but this was one of the dresses that she had on there, and I absolutely loved it. But basically what I did is that I found those sheets. I needed about 4 yards of fabric, and so I had, luckily for me, there was way more fabric than I needed, and I've actually taken this fabric and made it into a lot of different things. But so I started with, you can see on here, there is the black sort of tank top on the mannequin, and I've pinned it. So this tank top fit me really well, and I took it and I added, so here you can see that it's pinned to where the straps are, and that's like where I would put my straps. And then the back, where the like drop back would be, I put the 2 pegs at the back there for where I was gonna start dropping the fabric down and cinching it together. And this was it was harder than I was anticipating, but it was also much easier than I was anticipating, if that makes sense. But basically, so I cut it out using this tank top, and then with the back I did a seam. So it was probably, I'd say, 2 yards of that. So basically, if you imagine like 2 of me standing here like this, going that way, and I did 2 seams, and I didn't backstitch on them, and so then I could just tie a knot at one end, and I just started cinching like this with the thread. But I did it with like normal thread in the beginning, and that just kept breaking, and it was getting so frustrating. So I found some thread that was a lot thicker, and so I started to do that, and then it became like the drop back that you see. And so then I had to go, because there's so much like excess fabric right there, I had to go around it, and that's how I finished off the like hemline with like another, like a longer piece of that fabric, and I folded it over, and then I folded it over this part, and then that made it so it wasn't like all funky in the back. And then I sewed both sides together, then I put straps on it. I think I got booted off again. It's connecting. Okay, I think it's okay.
Keeps on me. How annoying. Should be on.
Okay, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. So then, yeah, I sewed it together, added the straps, and then it came to adding the ruffles at the bottom, which they would be, I had to cut essentially like maybe this much off, but what I ended up doing was cutting like that much off, and it just would have looked so odd if I put the bottom ruffles on the bottom, so I decided not to do that. And I had this pink fabric, which is right here, and it matched like the flowers that are on the dress, and so I decided that I would make sort of like, kind of like how like an underskirt would look in a dress that was shorter, you know, like, I guess how would I describe it, like you put on to make this, like they used them more in the 50s where it was like the, what is it? Petticoat? Yeah, petticoat. And so it's kind of doing that without having the actual petticoat there, so it's like cinched kind of like that in like a wavy pattern. But yeah, that's basically how I made this dress. It was pretty frustrating and it made me feel very sad that I ended up cutting it on the bottom, because it was going to be a really cool dress, and I'm probably going to try doing it again. So I will let you know how that goes.
Yeah, so just wondering, this is a question from Dodie. Were you working with diverse sizes of models for your fashion show?
Yes, so there are...
And I hope we can still see the fashion show someday.
Ideally. So the pictures that I had on here are the people that I was allowed to see during this time that fit into the clothes. So not everything that I have on here or on the Instagram, because I still don't have a model for it, are in the clothes. So that's why you don't see very diversity in the size, because I don't have people at my disposal during this time of isolation to put those on for me. So yes, there are clothes like that. They're just not pictures of them, basically.
Oh, there's lots of questions above. Can someone I kind of lost the stream, so if can someone rephrase a question? Say them again. Say.
What?
Just say one more question.
One more question.
Are you planning on selling any of your items or starting a business? For Miranda. She would like to go to business, for sure.
I've thought about it. There's definitely like little things that I'd like to make, but I think clothing on a larger scale is a little more stressful than what I'm trying to do at this moment in time. I'm not planning on selling any of the items that I've made currently. They are all made for specific people in mind and like measured to specific people. So yeah, like these 3 things were made for my mom. I'm wearing it right now, but my mom, Iris and Aveline. And so there's a bunch of more pieces that I have that are for little kids, but I didn't have a little kid besides Henry, and he wasn't going to put on a dress for me, so I didn't get to take pictures of that. But I don't think at this moment in time I'm planning on selling